Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer, and if you're new to the show, the mission here is to expose the quacks and gimmicks in the marketing industry while featuring some great marketers and entrepreneurs along the way. In this episode, I'm excited to welcome my guest, Cari Kenzie. Now, Cari is a speaker, entrepreneur, coach, an experienced marketer, and there's probably a ton of other things I could tack onto that intro there. So, Cari, thank you so much for joining the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I listened to your episode on Ryan Snod's podcast, which we were both a part of. So can you give the audience just a quick intro on who you are and what you do?
Oh my gosh, I will give you a quick 30,000 foot view. I am an entrepreneur. I owned and successfully sold a trade show and event marketing firm here in Iowa. Did that for close to 20 years. Was navigating a healing journey that brought me into a deeper understanding of neurosciences and personal development. And so have moved into the world of coaching and speaking, creating and co-founding a second company, Shift, which is all about leadership development, conscious leadership and personal development, but doing so in a disruptive way. And then I also have a nonprofit, Ripples of Change Foundation, which focuses on the healing of trauma for those caught in the ripple. So those who are kind of on the extension of an experience, who have invalidated their stories and quieted their voices. I am on a mission to awaken the world to the power that they hold within themselves. So I would say that's like my very short bio. I also have 3 kids, couple of dogs, just enjoying life.
Yeah, you got a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So on your website, one thing that I liked is your slogan. You have, it's time to rebel against doubts, fears, everyone else, definition of who you are, own it,
Yes.
take the leap.
Yeah.
And I respect that. So let's talk about now what separates you, Cari, from the hundreds, if not thousands, of these business coaches and speakers. Because you know where I'm going with this, right? This is the Marketing Quacks podcast. There's a lot of gimmicks out there.
Oh my gosh.
What separates you from everyone
Here's
else?
what I will tell you is that if you are looking for a coach, if you're looking for a consultant, then they promise you the answer or to give you the strategy that's going to get you to the other side of the problem. They're going to get you beyond the gap where you're currently sitting. They're selling you a load of crap. That's what I would say. Nope.
Which is most of them.
You know what? It's a lot. I would say we have a pandemic that's happening within the coaching and therapy industries. Quite honestly, it's a lot of people who are in it more from a self-serving standpoint, meaning let me share with you and download with you all of the knowledge that I have, and I'm going to give you the answer that you need, right? All they do, though, is they misplace you and pull you out of alignment with your own purpose. They quiet the wisdom that sits within you. You already know the answer. You already know the direction to take. You're probably just sitting looking for permission to do so. I know I did for a number of years, right? I knew what I needed to do. I just needed somebody else to validate it for me. And all I was doing is denying my own power and my truth in the process of it. So what we do is we help to bring people back to that wisdom that resides within. We don't have the answer for you. We help you uncover the tool that's within you. And I had too many of those coaches and consultants, quite honestly, masterminds as well, that I have watched.
I've been through the ringer.
Oh my,
trust me.
seriously.
I know, yeah.
The last conference I was at, Ryan, I don't know if you've had this experience, but the last conference I was at, I was sitting, I'll say I was sitting on the sidelines. I'm kind of on the edges of the room, and the MC looks at me later. He's like, damn, Cari, you're sitting over there like, I see the bullshit that's going on here. Sorry, but you see what's going on here. I said, I do. And here's what's happening is you end up in these conferences with people who are looking for the guru, right? They are like bowing down at the people on the stage. Please give me the answer. Please tell me the next thing that needs to happen, right? And they disempower themselves in the process because then they end up just chasing an answer, chasing the next thing. And I've had people call it stupid tax. I've had people call it a lot of different things where it's like, I have put so much money. I've put hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars into trying to find the answer, and I'm no better off now. Well, it's because every time you do it, you're getting the answer to somebody else's question. It's time for you to dive back into who you are. Sorry,
Yeah,
I went on a
usually
tangent there.
No, you're good. I usually get into the gimmicks portion towards the end of the show, but we can
Sorry.
start right here. I mean, I love talking about this stuff. So let's talk offline because I don't want to say any names or something, but I'll have to tell you a story offline about something similar that you just shared. Talk about like how people kind of leverage PR, right? They fool social proof, right? As featured on, like I have this, as featured on. They buy themselves into Forbes. They buy all these placements. They fool the general public into believing that they've accomplished all these things just so they can sell a course, sell a mastermind. Talk about that a little bit. Or what are some of the big gimmicks that you see in the coaching, the speaking space that are so rampant now?
Oh gosh. Well, I would say that's definitely one of them, right? When you see all of the get yourself into media, build your authority, build your authenticity. You're not building anything when you're purchasing your way. It's such I call it a incestual business. It really is. When you start to peel away the layers of what's happening in this industry, what you're going to find is, I'm sorry to put it this way, but that's like they're all in bed with each other, quite honestly, right? It's, oh, my good friend, and they really helped me out do this. And you also paid them 6 figures to do it, right? But you're not sharing that with anybody else, right? All you need to do is you need to make the phone call. All you need to do is to tap into your top 20 list, which is great. And yes, when you do that and you reach out to the people that you know, people want to help other people. You really do, right? Except for you feel like they put on the back end, reach out to the 20, but make sure you've got the authority to do so. Make sure you've built this in, and we're going to teach you how to do that first. So I'm going to pull you off track, right? And then pull you back in. That is the thing that I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't do. I could not go to these conferences and watch these people come up on stages and be like, oh, my good friend. You're not good friends, honey. You're not. I know what you're doing on the back end. I know the conversations that you're having. So there is a lot of that. And there's a lot of, people who, speaking on the stages. We create a lot of fanfare. It's all about vanity metrics. And it's unfortunate because I tell you what, it's got to be about authenticity. Same conference I was sitting at. I know the speakers, the people who were hosting the event. And I watched such a incongruence between what was literally at the conference, incongruence between what they were saying on the stage and how they were treating people and their family off stage. And I was like, I cannot sit in this anymore. We have to disrupt this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the sad reality at a lot of these internet gurus. When you meet them off stage, it's a completely different ballgame. But I want to circle back here. We can get back into the Quacks towards the end of this episode, but I want to circle back and kind of talk about your journey into the speaking and coaching. So when you transitioned into this full time, I guess, what was that kind of light bulb moment where you're like, I'm going all in on this?
You know what? I had the light bulb moment before I sold my business. And I had because I had to navigate my own journey. I just did. I had such an experience that happened, Boston Marathon 2013 finish line when the attack happened. And I had a chronic PTSD that I did not understand because quite honestly, PTSD is reserved for the military. This is just where my head went. Ended up debilitatingly ill and had to navigate my own journey and bring myself to the other side of it. I was chasing, I was searching, I was going after all of the things and nothing was hitting until I finally started to listen to that intuition in me, and it was leading me down the path. In 2018, I had an incredible experience in my own journey that affected my child in a profound way. And I thought, you know what? If us doing our own internal work truly has the ability to be able to affect the people that we love, the people that we lead, then these are the conversations that need to happen. That's the moment in 2018 when I decided to go all in. It took a while to get there. I sold my business successfully in the beginning of 2019, which is its own amazing story. I mean, because we all know 2020, and I was in the trade show and event marketing industry. So a blessing, right? When you're like, thank you every day. And then continued out. The more, I will tell you this, I have been on this journey since before 2018. Obviously, it's been a lifelong journey now that I go back and connect the dots. But I have been on this journey and it has continued to seep in further and further into me. 22, I had this awakening of oh my God, this has never been about me. I don't know if you ever have that moment where you're like, oh, this isn't about me. This is about every single person that I'm connecting with. It, but then you know it. And then this year, as my business partner and I have kind of come together and we've brought our individual businesses together to create Shift, we joke, we're like, when a mission is laid on you in a way that you have no choice, you know it's the trajectory that you need to go on. And that, I think, each year has been its own like go all in moment. And this year was just amplified because of what we're seeing in the world, because of what I have seen and what I've witnessed over the course of the past few years. Now it's become this imperative moment of awakening, and we need to help people to be able to navigate through it and get to the other side.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of good stuff that you just mentioned in there. So let's talk about personal branding a little bit, right? Obviously, everyone that's getting into this wants to increase their personal brand ASAP. What were some strategies that you used at the very beginning? Was it podcasting, YouTube, content creation? Talked about how you've built your personal brand and are still building your personal brand.
You know, I will say this, it's you showing up authentically every day, period. You showing up authentically every day, whether it be in a podcast. Those are huge. Anywhere that you can share and amplify your voice and your message, those are the things that you need to be doing. Social media, podcasting, getting your story out there. That's your brand. That's your brand. It has nothing to do with what you're wearing. It has nothing to do with the labels of the magazines or the titles that you label on top of it. Literally, your personal brand is you. We get confused and we get lost in that, and we feel like it's an extension of us, and it's not. The more you can show up authentically as who you are, when you know that and understand that and you hold to that truth, that's what people magnetize to.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about people pleasing a little bit. I don't know if you follow Cody Sanchez, but she talks about this quite a bit, where it says if you can overcome this fear of people pleasing, it will be a superpower. So how did you overcome that fear when you're first getting on camera, you're first talking into a microphone, of just not giving a shit what people think about you?
You know what? You just can't give a shit. Here's what I will say, and this is kind of this was a key moment for me when it came to this understanding of what people pleasing truly was. What people pleasing is to me when I look at it is I am not honoring the higher aspect of you. When I'm people pleasing, I'm not actually honoring you. I'm not doing anything for you. I'm actually keeping you locked into a diminished space. That's all I'm doing. And when I'm doing that to you, I'm actually doing that to me. People pleasing is not about making somebody else happy. It's what you think you need from that person in order to make you happy. It's what you think you need in order to understand your own value. When you can honor your own truth and when you can know that you're worthy, period, you don't worry about what somebody else is going to say. Because here's the thing, babe, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. Like, people are going to judge, and let them, right? At least they're talking about something. If you're not showing up at all, nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, that's for sure. I want to talk about some common hurdles too in the coaching industry, right? Obviously, there's all sorts of hurdles that you have to overcome. Just telling someone on the street, hey, I'm a coach, hey, I'm a speaker, right? It raises some antennas when you say that, at least for me anyways. So how do you overcome some of these hurdles, and how do you kind of show that authenticity? I know authenticity is extremely important, but how do you show that to someone who's brand new to your brand and try to convince them that you're one of the good guys?
Well, see, that's the problem. You don't convince anybody of anything. Right? I'm not going to convince you of anything. All I'm going to do is share with you the potential that I see within you. I want to awaken you to that. I want to have a conversation that shares with you who I am and the journey that I've navigated, right? And if you can see, that's where people get connected. People connect in relatability. And that relatability is me truly just telling you, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is why, and this is what I'm passionate about. And this is what I see in other people. And this is what I want to help awaken them to. Right? And then people are like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But here's the thing. When you're searching for the words in order to make sure somebody else understands so that you can sell them on something, they'll never buy into anything. You literally just have to have a conversation around, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm passionate about. Don't feel like you have to label it with anything. Don't feel like you have to label it with coach or you have to label it with speaker. This is what I'm passionate about and this is what I'm doing. And I don't care how I do it. I don't care if it's from a stage. I don't care if it's in a coaching cohort, if it's in a mastermind or if it's in a one-on-one. But this is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I found doing some research on you before the show is you talk about manifesting versus creating, right? So talk about some of the differences where entrepreneurs can kind of harness their energy to shape their destinies rather than just envision what they talk about. How do they actually put their words into action versus just envisioning things?
Well, okay, first of all, you're already doing it. People don't understand that. When I talk about manifesting and creating, people like to think, well, I'm manifesting, I'm going after this goal. This is the thing that I desire to have, right? So I'm going to write it down, I'm going to vision board it out. I'm going to, sit and I'm going to meditate on it, or I'm going to look at that goal every single day in order to make sure that it happens, okay?
Which is what most
people do, and I think it's great. And then I also hear them go, yeah, I've got that vision board. I'm just waiting for a little fairy dust to be sprinkled on it, right? In order to make sure it happens. I'm like, oh God. Okay, if only that was the case. Well, here's the thing. You're already manifesting. You're already creating. Manifestation is simply a demonstration. It's a demonstration of what you believe that's being reflected back to you in the reality that you're living. So if you're living a reality that you don't like, if you're wanting something different, that you got to figure out what it is in you that believes that that's the reality that you deserve. Once you figure that out and you pull the thread of what's happening subconsciously, all of this negative chit chat, this self-doubt, this self-sabotage, we call it a gap. This gap that you're sitting in between where you are and where you want to be, when you can figure that out, you will create what it is that you desire. And you'll create it because you'll be inspired to take that intentional action in order to make it happen. And your beliefs are now matching what it is that you desire. So you think about New Year's resolutions, right? I just finished writing our book yesterday. And so we're talking about New Year's resolutions and how beginning of January, people come into it and they're like, this is what I'm going to create this year, right? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to exercise. And they put it on their vision board. They put it all over the place. It's like, okay, that's great. And then they step into it and they do it for about 2.5 weeks. And what is it? Like 90% of New Year's resolutions fails by January 16th. Why? Because their belief system doesn't match the desire that they have for the goal that they're going after, right? There's something in them that thinks it's too hard because they're not worth it, that thinks that they don't deserve it, or that, you know what I mean? Just like goes after something to fill a void, the gap that they're sitting in. When you can understand that and you can pull that piece, that motivation is automatically going to be there, and you're going to be like, no, I'm going to overcome that. I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to create the action that gets me the result that I desire.
So true. I could create a whole episode just on how New Year's resolution is a marketing gimmick. I mean, Planet Fitness already has you locked into a year-long subscription.
Heck yeah,
so
they do.
They're not hurting when they do those promotions.
Yep.
So I want to talk about, I'm sure you've spoken on several topics in some of your keynotes and presentations. Kira, if you had to pick, one topic where someone approaches you and says, you can do a keynote on whatever you want that's relevant to whatever you're trying to talk about, what would be that topic and why?
Vulnerability. And here's why, because it's misunderstood. Vulnerability is thought to be something outside of self. People don't want to be vulnerable. I will say that even as a business owner, as I was navigating my own journey, I didn't want to be vulnerable because it's seen as weakness, right? If I am vulnerable, then I have to think about what is it that I'm going to share with you? How much am I going to share with you? How much is too much, right? It has nothing to do with the extension of you. It has everything to do with what's within you. In order to be vulnerable, you have to be vulnerable with yourself. You have to address the emotions that you've been hiding from. You have to look at the things that you have navigated through that you regret, that you resent, that you wish you wouldn't have done. I made a bad decision, right? It took me down the wrong path. When we can get vulnerable enough with ourselves to sit and have the conversations internally about the things that we've been through, about how we judge ourselves, about the things that we're not accepting of or compassionate about, and we can sit authentically in that and navigate through that, meaning that we're going to address it. We're going to sit and understand why I'm feeling this way, where this came from, and quite honestly, what's the beauty in the gold? I had a conversation with a gal earlier this morning. She's like, I'm so sorry you went through all of that. And I said, I'm not. I see it as an asset, not a liability. I see it as a beautiful experience having gone through Boston because it brought me into every single moment, every conversation I get to have today, changed me as a person. Right? And I get to help other people be able to see that. When you're vulnerable enough with yourself to sit in the pain, to sit in the gap and to understand it, everything changes. Then you get to be that for other people. That's how you get to become a true leader. Because now I'm vulnerable with me, I can have that with you. I have compassion with me, I can have compassion with you. I understand me, I see the emotions in me, I can see them in you. That's the conversation. Then you open up your creativity and your innovation. You want to be a better marketer? Do that.
That's true. Because most marketers, they don't think, they don't innovate, they don't create. They're just, oh, I learned that in a course, or I learned that, and they just assume that something's going to work, so they just do it. They don't actually think about the creativity behind it.
No.
So I love that. We could definitely dive into that. But I'm just curious too, Cari. So you are a mother. You mentioned you have kids. You have all this stuff going on. One thing that I struggle with as an entrepreneur is the whole idea of work-life balance, right? I've had to embrace chaos, and I'm sure you have too to some extent. So talk about embracing chaos a little bit and how you overcome that.
Oh my gosh, you have to embrace chaos. You have to. You have to embrace chaos, confusion, constraint, all of those negative, icky things we think it is, right? In order to be able to find the clarity that you need to move forward. There is no such thing as work-life balance. Hate to break it to you. There is not, right? There is an ebb flow and a pendulum swing in all of life and everything that you go through, which means my kids are sitting with me until 11:30 last night out in the family room like, Mom, how many pages you got left in your book? How many pages you got left? Because I know I've been doing this night after night. And I'm like, I got 5 pages left. They're like, okay. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to wait and then we're going to watch a movie. So I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning last night. But you know what? It was the best time that I spent because I see that swing. Right? And I understand and know. And then I slept in just a little bit longer this morning. These are the things you have to embrace, those moments of chaos. You have to sit in them. What happens is we want to dismiss them. We want to scurry out of them as fast as we possibly can. That's where the gold sits, friends. That's where the gold sits.
Because it's comfortable.
It is comfortable. It is comfortable. I tell you, one of the, and I'm like one of those extreme, obviously, Boston, I tell people all the time, it's an extreme example of an everyday experience. It just is. We all go through these moments where the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, right? Something shocking, you're blindsided, and then you've lost your footing, your confidence, you're not sure which direction to go. We've all had that, right? And so I look at that sitting in the chaos, sitting in the confusion, like in order to be able to find that clarity, you have to do it in math. You have to sit in confusion in math in order to be able to find the problem, right? In order to be able to find the solution to get the answer that you need. I did that with Boston in order to overcome that. I sat in the chaos of watching that movie. I invited the pain in order to get to the other side of it. But I tell you what, that's where the beauty resides. And that's where you find those innovative experiences and that creativity that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I read this in a book somewhere, I think, but someone talked about how the system that we live in programs us to think linearly. I think that's the word, linear. Basically thinking that tomorrow's going to be like today, which is completely false. If you want to move forward in life, you cannot think linear and think that tomorrow is going to be exactly like today. It's just not how it works. So a lot of what you were just talking about right there. So Cari, now I'm curious, what's next in store for you? You mentioned you're writing a book and you're finishing up a book. Do you have any other new projects or goals that you want to discuss here?
Yeah, we're launching our Leader Within program in September. It's a year-long container where we really, like I say, we invite these women, these leaders, these entrepreneurs really back into the wisdom of who they are, right? Opening them up to that leader that sits within them so that they can go next level in life and in career. So that launches in September. We've got 2 events coming up in 2025. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? In 2025, one in January in Sedona, Arizona, Phoenix area. It's all about consciousness. It's all about clarity. It's all about finding that truth that resides within. And then we take it into Leadville, hiking Hope Pass in July of next year, really overcoming those obstacles, harnessing that courage and that bravery to find the confidence we need to create all the things that we desire. So that's just a couple of the things that we've got coming up. And then we launched our membership, our Power of Potential membership in Shift, where we have conversations. We do some group coaching. We have monthly topics that we're talking about. Last month was confidence, where we really disrupted and broke that down. This next month is all about self-alignment and team alignment.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I want to throw a transition in here. I always have to ask people about AI and how entrepreneurs are leveraging AI and what they're doing in their specific use cases. So, Cari, talk about how you're leveraging AI right now, if you're leveraging it at all. Talk about what tools you're using, just how you're using AI in your workflows.
Oh my gosh. Well, we use it in a lot of different ways, actually. We use it to help tease out even event schedules. We do that in our nonprofit as well. We'll ask it to put together maybe 30 days of social media content, give us a marketing plan, give us what this next month could look like based on what we've got going on. We've got an event coming up for Ripples here locally in October. And so we'll go into ChatGPT and be like, hey, here's our event. Let's back this out and create a marketing plan. And, so we can hit some things there. We do a lot of it in that way. I think that one thing where people get a little bit lost is they forget to trust themselves in their own creativity, and they use the AI in order to replace, right? To replace, because I don't think I have the words. I can't write it. So I'm going to ask AI to do it. I actually popped open a book this last, it was this last fall, was reading through it, and I put it down after about 6 pages, and I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. This whole thing's written by chat. This whole thing's written by chat. Like, how do you know? Because like, you can see it. And here's the other thing that people don't understand. You have to keep your own authenticity in everything you're doing, even in using AI. You have to. We use it to help tease out our reels. We use it to, for transcripting and, summarizing things. There's so many different ways that we use AI, but please, please do not let yourself get lost in it, because the energy is different. And people may not know exactly what it is that they're sensing, but they sense a disconnect. So you have to be sure that you're still seeping yourself into every aspect of what you do.
Yeah, part of my business is actually AI consulting. And one thing I always tell people in these presentations, you cannot use AI as a crutch. It has to be used as a tool, right? It can't create, it can repurpose. So you have to create authentic content yourself, whether that's a long form video, article, etc., and then use AI to repurpose the original content that you already created. So that's the message I always give people.
Thank you.
What other trends do you see in AI in terms of AI? How is it impacting, your speaking and coaching industry? Is there any particular trends that are top of mind?
Well, here's what I think is going to be terribly unfortunate is when you end up with those coaches and you end up with those strategists who are using AI so, as the fullness of their business, and then that's where you end up getting your information from. I think it can be a detriment. I see a lot of people selling AI, which is very interesting to me, right? Go out, and it's like the AI strategy now is the next big kick on how to amplify and utilize your business. I think it's great, but again, tend to lose yourself and your own authenticity in it. So I see from coaching, I've seen where people will put in, hey, I've got this issue. Okay, so tell me, what is the belief that gets in the way here? Or tell me what the strategy is in order to be able to overcome this. And it's like, you know what? AI is only going to be able to take you so far, right? It can't see into the soul. It can't see into the heart. It doesn't have the ability to have the compassion that you do. I do think that, again, very, very helpful in helping to outline maybe some speeches. That's perfect. But again, don't use it to write your speeches. So I agree with you.
You can probably tell.
And you can always tell. You can always tell, you guys. Seriously, you're going to, if they're talking about like, God, what are some of the things that...
Delve, as an AI model, or like some of these like terms that they always throw out.
Oh my gosh, if you give me one more wave, if you give me one more analogy around, I'm like, you can pick it up every single time. Like, please, please keep yourself authentic within it. Because I tell you what, those who aren't, they're going to fall by the wayside. Eventually they will, because people will figure it out.
I agree 100%. So, Cari, this has been fun. I'm going to cap it off here. Any final notes that you have for anyone listening on either anything we talked about, or are there any other gimmicks in your space that are top of mind that you want to elaborate on? Just curious to hear your final thoughts.
Here's what I would say. I would say can always hold to your truth. Always hold to your truth. Anytime you step into a container of a mastermind, of a coach, of a consultant, hold to your truth and make sure that they are seeing you. Okay, make sure that they are having the conversation with you. It's not just about the accountability. It's about what's getting in the way of that accountability, right? And if you step in, I've seen this happen. So I've seen people's dreams get killed stepping into a container of a mastermind because I was told for years, nobody wants to talk about trauma, Cari. Stop talking it. Nobody wants to talk about trauma, right? Until all of a sudden everybody's talking about trauma. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, well, they didn't want me talking about it because they hadn't worked through their own, right? So I've seen people get pulled off the trajectory of their own dreams because the person that they've invested in doesn't have the same belief system that they do, right? So just hold to your truth. no matter what it is that you're doing. And again, if they're selling you on the strategy that's going to fix your problem, they're selling you a load of crap.
100%, which is most of them out there, unfortunately. Yes. So, Cari, where can people find you online?
So they're going to be able to find us social media either at Cari Kenzie or at Shift, which is ISHFT. We have to be disruptive in all ways. And then shift.life. ISHFT.life is where you're going to find our program for Leader Within that's launching this fall.
Perfect. I'll leave all that in the show notes and give you some of those high DR podcast backlinks for SEO purposes. So, Cari, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast, and thank you to everyone for listening. Be sure to tune in again next time.